Hello! How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? Oh my gosh, it's good to see you guys. Thank you for joining me for lunch today. Today, I'm going to be having a liquid lunch because it's already starting off to be a heck of a week. I hope you guys enjoyed your weekend. I had a nice weekend. Got to get out, see some friends, hang out with some folks, stuff like that. By the way, is this thing even working? I hope my microphone is working. Yeah. Some folks can actually let me know if that's working. Today, I'm going to be doing some day drinking because I woke up this morning and saw that a fix that I had checked in for the game completely broke a lot of stuff. So it's been a stressful morning for me today, and nothing like a little bit of alcohol to help get you through the day, right? I don't drink during the day too often, but when I do, I make it nice and I make it a hard drink. So today, I'm making myself a little gin and tonic. Let's go a little heavy on the tonic. I don't want to get too drunk today. Some tonic water, some nice Seagram's, I believe this is 40%. Yep, 40%, 80 proof Seagram's gin. Not the most expensive stuff, not the best stuff, but you know, it works. And I'm going to drop a couple of ice cubes in here because it is an extremely hot day. So I would like to cool my drink down a little bit. All right, guys, you're going to have to let me know how you're doing. It's always great to hang out with folks during these live streams. Always awesome, always awesome to see you guys. Like I said, I hope you guys had a great weekend. We're still locked down. We're still surviving here in the Pacific Northwest. I did notice that there was a couple of quarantine orders that went out over the weekend. Hopefully, nothing too big that's affecting you. And I don't know, the world just seems like it's in total chaos and upheaval. I've seen I think some of the news that was coming out of Seattle has calmed down a little bit. So I was largely unaffected by that. Ooh, that's nice. Usually gin and tonic has lemon or lime juice, but this is with lemon juice. I think I used a little bit too much lemon juice in there, but still, it's not bad. Not a bad substitute. I didn't have any lime, so you guys will have to forgive me for that. But, like I said, this is not the most expensive stuff, so I think it's okay to make a bastardized drink out of some kind of cheap alcohol. But yeah, lots of crazy stuff going on in the Pacific Northwest. Nobody should be worrying about me too much, though. I feel like I'm doing okay. Keeping myself busy, all those good things. But today, over the weekend, I saw this really interesting question posed about the color magenta, and it got me thinking about, for folks that are unfamiliar with the color wheel, and the color magenta in particular is actually a color that doesn't exist in nature. It doesn't even exist in reality at all. It's something that your brain just kind of makes up on the spot to fill in a gap for something that it can't understand. And it got me thinking about general psychology stuff and the anatomy of the eye and how the way that your eyes work and everything, it's totally crazy. If you ever want to look into some really, really insane psychological phenomena, looking into the way that the human eye system works is something that's really interesting. And if you do look into kind of psychology 101 and physiopsychology, stuff like that, physical psychology, I should say, not the history of psychology, basically. I think that starting with the eye, it's a pretty common place to start because there's a lot of crazy stuff that goes on with your eyes. For example, a lot of people assume that your eyes are connected to your brain through your what do they call it? Your ocular nerve, just like an ocular nerve bundle that strings from your eyes to your central brain. When in fact, your eyes are actually part of your brain, which is really insane if you think about it. You got this big part of your brain just sticking out, just exposed to the entire world, which is, most people might think of that as something that's kind of bad, but no, just a part of your brain, just hanging out, just for the entire world to see. I like to think that, this part of your brain in the same part of the world where all of the dangerous things are, which is to say outside of your skull. Just some crazy phenomena like that. I think I need to make this a little bit harder, actually. Add a little bit more gin in there. Never, I don't mix, I don't measure these mixes too much, so I don't actually know what the heck I'm doing. Just toss a couple of things into a glass. You guys will have to let me know, like, what are some of your favorite cocktails? What are some of your go-to drinks? I'm always interested in trying new things, even though I don't drink too often. And it is interesting that, alcohol, one of those things that does mess with your psychology a little bit. So I think it's kind of appropriate today. Have something that's messing with my mind while I'm talking about my mind and crazy stuff in your mind that doesn't actually make sense. All right, so talking about your eye anyway. Your eye, that's a part of your brain that's like hanging out in front of your face. That's so strange and so weird. Let me zoom in this picture real quick. So just a quick reminder of how exactly the eye works. You got this big globe, these two globes in your brain. I should say in your eye sockets. It's not in your brain, it is a part of your brain. And when light enters one side, then they hit the back of your eye. It stimulates these two different kinds of cells. You got the rod cells. I'm sure if anybody's taken 6th grade biology, you probably know a little bit about this, but just like a quick refresher, you got the rod cells, which tell you like how bright things are, basically like captures the intensity of the light coming in. And then you got the cone cells. You got 3 different kinds of cone cells that are stimulated by the 3 different types of visible lights in the visible spectrum. Those are going to be the red, the green, and the blue. If I remember right, RGB, that's red, green, blue. Yeah, so green is like in the middle of the spectrum. And then red and blue, if you've got infrared light, that's lower than red light. So I assume that red must be on the bottom of the spectrum, I believe. I do have a light spectrum image up here somewhere as well. Here we go. Okay, so infrared means that it is a higher wavelength, lower frequency light. So the light that's at the lowest frequency in the visible spectrum is the red. So if that goes into your eye, then it's going to stimulate those red cells. And the green is obviously going to be in the middle. If you get something in between the red and the green, so if we go to this color wheel, so we've got red, got green, and if you have some light that's like stimulating both the red and the green, then of course you're going to see it somewhere in the middle here. It's going to be like this orange or yellow color. And if you get something that's stimulating both the green and the blue cells in your eyes, then it's going to be this kind of like turquoise color. That's basically what you're going to see. Now there's this interesting phenomenon where if you go back to this light spectrum here, see that blue light is the highest frequency and red light is the lowest frequency. So if you get both those blue and the red cells being stimulated, then it's probably 2 different sources of light. So instead of like, so you see that the light spectrum is actually this line as opposed to the color wheel in this other image. So you get this really strange phenomenon where if you've got both the blue and the red cells in your eyes being stimulated by the 2 different sources of light, then your brain has to like make up this color that actually doesn't exist. It has to kind of like fill in on the sides to say that, okay, so what's between red and blue? Well, if you look at it, what's directly between red and blue, if you like even them out, or if you average them out, I should say, it should be green, it should be straight down the middle. But instead what happens is your brain makes up this other color that if you look at the wheel, it's between red and blue. It's sometimes called magenta, it's sometimes called violet. The crazy thing is that this light doesn't actually exist. It's something that your brain just like makes up to kind of like as a stopgap to say, well, I see something, I don't know what the heck it is. I don't know how to interpret it. It's not something that's real, but it's your brain telling you that there's this magical light spectrum that is both higher frequency than blue and lower frequency than red. So it comes up with this thing. It's called violet. So it's this really weird phenomenon in your eyes. Take a little drink. And like, yeah, it's something that some artists are able to kind of like manipulate. And if you look at a rainbow, for example, you'll notice that like at the very edges of the rainbow on both the top and the bottom of the bits of the rainbow, it might look a little bit like this violet color. And that's kind of what's happening there is your body's saying like, oh, it's something that's, outside of red or, outside of blue. It's just crazy how much your body like lies to you in that way, and it is this kind of like what would you call it, like a heuristic or something along those lines, where your brain is like doing the best it can to interpret the world with incomplete information to try to like convince you that something exists that isn't actually real. Let me get that out of the way of my face. And my goodness, it is so warm today. Let's add some more ice to this drink. So I'm going through a bit of a heat spell around my house lately. In fact, I'm going to get rid of this jacket. Everybody can see my ugly bleach-stained t-shirt. But I don't care, because I am so warm. I'm trying to strip these layers. Like, it's ridiculous. But yeah, I just find stuff like that really fascinating. That if you look into the physiology of the way that especially the way that your eyes work, it's just some of the most complex and interesting parts of your body. And of course, like I said, humans are visual animals. Like the way that your body or the way that your brain interprets the signals that are coming in through your eyes, very complex. The visual system is probably the most developed. I would say it's probably the most complex and developed of all the senses that your body actually uses. So that's probably the reason why your brain is so well developed to handle all of these like really strange phenomenon of like basically interpreting the world in a way that makes sense even though it isn't real, because in a lot of ways like that's kind of what your brain is made to do. You have this phenomenon called neuroplasticity where you like, I do feel a little bit like I'm kind of rambling right now, so sorry if this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But you have this idea of neuroplasticity where your brain interprets the signals that are coming in and does its best job to like simplify it so that you're able to actually break down that information that's really complex information as something that's actually usable and practical. Because I mean, if you think about it, if you just got like the raw information that all of it bubbled up to your consciousness, like that would be way too much information for your conscious mind to really make use of. So it's breaking down this information in a way that is practical, that's something that can be useful without spending like way too much time to consider it. You know, there's this other idea of how you have a blind spot that's like somewhere in the corner of your vision, basically based, which is because part of your eye is actually not sensing any light at all. It's somewhere over here. I don't know exactly where it is. You can check out like images to test where your blind spot is. Basically because there's a little spot in the back of your eye that's taken up by your ocular nerve where you don't have any cones cells or you don't have any rod cells to actually detect light. Oh my gosh. And there are lots of like strange, speaking of acclimation, there's lots of strange experiments you can do on your own, like visual experiments, to see how your body actually acclimates to stuff that it's viewing for an extended period of time, where your body will become accustomed to something that it's seeing. And one, like I think the most common phenomenon, the most common visual phenomenon that you see that can make use of this is what's called a negative image, where if you stare at something that's the exact same color for a long time, it's like that color kind of, I should say that the color cells in your eye, the cone cells that detect that color, kind of get like burned out. They kind of get almost like exhausted from looking at that color. Then if you take that away and look at a black and white image, then you'll see like the opposite of the color that you were staring at. You got burned out, that your eyes were burned out on. And it's another one of these phenomenons where you're something that you might not actually realize intuitively is that your body isn't sensing something like the absolute value of something, but it's better at sensing change in something. So basically what's happening there is, your body kind of gets, I like to think of it as a little bit like it's getting exhausted about looking at the exact same thing. And then if you look away, like I said, you get to see that, or you can see that like negative image almost imposed on whatever you're looking at. And like I said, it's a very common thing. I'm sure that most folks are familiar with that phenomenon, but you can actually extend this to different other kinds of visual phenomenon, where if you're looking at vertical lines. In fact, your brain will almost get like a little bit exhausted from looking at those vertical lines, and then if you look away at something else, some jagged lines or some wavy lines or something like that, all of a sudden it looks like you have this very strange phenomenon where jagged lines all of a sudden like look like they're almost parallel, like horizontal. Or another phenomenon is seeing motion. If you see too much motion in one specific direction, you look away at a still image, then all of a sudden you see the like transpose of that motion on a still image. What are some other ones that are very strange? I think the verticality is, and like the checkerboarding effect is one that's really weird. Might be the most strange. I think that one like actually requires you to stare at an image for a couple of minutes before your brain kind of like acclimates to that verticality and horizontalness of an image, if you will. The motion ones don't take quite as long. I think the color images, where if you look away you see the negative of that color, tend to take like 20 or 30 seconds, somewhere around there. Lots of crazy stuff. No, I mean, the way that I found out about most of this stuff is just looking for, basic psychology lectures online. So I mean, all this information is pretty rudimentary if you tried to, this is all Psych 101 basically. If you were to go to school to get like a higher level learning of this, or a higher level understanding of some of these phenomena, I'm sure that all this stuff is super basic. But, I don't pretend like I'm an expert in any of this stuff. I'm just kind of interested in checking out some of the like really interesting high-level ideas of how some of these things operate. I mean, the human body, the human mind is a very strange mechanism. I know a lot of people feel like, the process of evolution, that we are the product of, thousands or millions of years of evolution, that it was this very elegant process that created something that is, what we might call a very sophisticated, and some people would say even like a mechanism that is bordering on perfection. And I would really argue the other way, because there are a lot of strange flaws in the human body that just don't make any sense at all. And the process of evolution in itself is like, if you think about it, it really is a series of accidents, of genetic accidents that occur over and over and over again, until one accident happens to just coincidentally, I should say a genetic accident, which is like a genetic mutation, just happens to accidentally create a human being that's better at propagating and making more human beings, making babies a little bit more efficiently than previous generations, and thus, some genetic mutation goes forward. And like it's a compilation of all of these. It's basically like nature trying different options, throwing shit at the wall to see what sticks. And if you think about it, it's really mind-boggling that if you look over millions of years of evolution, how long is it assumed that people have evolved? I think it's something like 2 million years or something like that, where we evolved from basic hominid species. I shouldn't say basic, but hominid species that were indistinguishable from modern Homo sapiens to today's human beings. It really is just a series of accidents, like genetics tripping over itself in so many different directions. And for every single one of these genetic mutations, these evolutions that improved humanity, then there was, I don't know how many countless thousands and millions of genetic mutations which were completely thrown out. So some people who say that evolution is a very elegant process, I would go the other way and say it is a brute force process that it's just trying things over and over and over again until you find the one thing that works. And you can see that as a result in lots of physiological phenomena, lots of like really strange things that happen inside of the human body. I think the throat is one thing that is a great example of evolution getting it wrong. You're breathing, and if you're breathing through your throat, which is the same tube where you're eating something, you're a couple of times a day, you're cramming a lot of stuff into your throat, down your esophagus. But it's also where you're breathing. So if you stop breathing, if you're unable to breathe for just a couple of minutes, like you'll perish. It doesn't take that long at all. So it really does seem like a physiological flaw to have the same tube where you're getting oxygen that you need constantly can very easily get blocked up by something else that you're putting down it. Which yeah, there you go. Maybe liquid food. Maybe that's the way that you avoid choking and dying prematurely. But also, like, as that's something that's kind of top of mind as a competitive eater. I'm very cognizant of the different things that I'm shoving down my gullet, basically. But also, just the process of breathing itself is also very inefficient. If you look at it, if you consider the way that the human throat connects to your lungs, and oxygen kind of gets cycled in and out of the same tube. When you exhale, you're emptying your lungs, but you still have some of this dead air that's inside of your throat. So when you inhale, you're inhaling that dead, used air already, some of that carbon dioxide that was cycled through your lungs through your previous breath. So in fact, like, you can never, ever get a lung full of fresh air because, you're always going to have a little bit of that dead air getting sucked back down into your lungs no matter how hard you try. So you can only fill up your lungs maybe 85%, 90% to capacity with fresh air. And there are some animals that have gotten around this. I know birds, for example. I think the lung capacity of birds is something that's very interesting, where they can like cycle air cyclically. So they're constantly exhaling and inhaling at the same time. It's one of the reasons that birds are probably some of the most amazing endurance animals out there. Every now and then I wonder, like, how great of an endurance athlete I might be if I could actually cycle air instead of inhaling and exhaling as two separate actions through the same very inefficient tube. I don't know. All these crazy things just kind of like pop up in my mind every now and then. Oh man, I wish I had like a foil, like somebody to actually discuss this stuff with, because this is getting kind of philosophical, getting away from what I thought the original topic was going to be, which is that your eyes are crazy. They're bonkers. The human body, human anatomy, human physiology, it is totally insane. It's ridiculous. I'm no expert on it, but by the little bit that I know, it's bananas. Oh my gosh. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed listening to me rant and drink a little bit. Drink and rant about the human body and just how crazy and silly it is. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys were able to get yourself something for lunch. Maybe you had a little bit of like a mind snack as well as something to snack on while you're watching this video, while you're watching this live stream. Thank you guys all for joining me. I'm going to be doing it. This is Zen in the art of competitive eating, as I like to call it every now and then. Just talking about whatever random topic comes to mind. I'm probably going to be talking a little bit more about like food and eating and stuff later this week, because I need to get back to that stuff. All right, guys. Cheers. Thank you for joining me. I'll be back. I'll look forward to seeing you guys on Wednesday afternoon. So yeah, stop by if you want to hang out with me for another 20 or 30 minutes and talk about random stuff. Until then, peace out. You guys have a good one. And now I'm clicking the end button.